All right, grab your cup of coffee or tea as we sit down and do this March 2022 wrap up. Okay, well, for today, I don't have coffee today, which is a rarity, but I do love my tea as well. But I don't have a fancy tea with me today. What I have is this tea from Trader Joe's. It's the Harvest Blend tea. It comes out seasonally, so I try to stock up. I love this tea. It's so good. It has cinnamon, ginger, hibiscus, apple, and chamomile, chicory, and orange peel. It's really yummy. I really enjoy the tea. Let's get to it. So, month at a glance. My daughters were on spring break. 2 weeks. They get 2 weeks here. A week before that, my oldest daughter was out sick for the entire week. I had to pick her up from school on Monday, very early on Monday. She went, and I was pretty much there right away. So it was 3 weeks pretty much that I had one of my daughters here at home, and then 2 weeks with both of my daughters. It really did limit my time, and so the things that I wanted to get done, I really didn't get done, but hey, that's just life, and I'm so happy to have them here, and it was good. My husband and I took a couple of days off, and we took a family trip to Tucson. We've been to Tucson. It's about an hour and 40 minutes away from where we live. But we've never really explored the entire area. We go for a day, we visit here, there, maybe grab a lunch and then come home. So this was more of a dedicated, let's go spend some time in Tucson and really get to know Tucson. Our homework included watching YouTube videos about the places to go and things to do and places to eat in Tucson. But I really do enjoy just kind of taking it easy in the morning. I don't like to rush out, but I get hungry in the morning, so there has to be a happy medium. So we like to stay at places like the KOA. There is a KOA in Tucson, and they have what's called cabins, which is really more like a little tiny home, but it has a kitchen. It has a stovetop, the sink, a full refrigerator. So we go to the store, we stock up, and we put our things in there, and then we just do most of the cooking there. But one of the things that was on a lot of the videos was Sonoran hot dogs. Now, I've never had a Sonoran hot dog. Growing up in LA, you have a lot of little hot dog, not stands, but the little carts where they wrap the hot dog in bacon, and those are super good, right? So I kept seeing these Sonoran hot dogs, and I told my husband, okay, this is obviously part of the culture of Tucson, so we have to go and experience it. So we did find a place to go to. It's called BK Hot Dogs. I'm looking at my notes because I have my notes handy. I don't want to forget anything. And they were interesting. Maybe I expected a little bit more. I'm not quite sure, but they were interesting. But there was one thing on the menu that we did order, and oh my God, they were so good. They're called Toritos. So they're a yellow hot pepper, and they're stuffed with ham and cheese, and then they're wrapped in bacon and grilled, and then they're served with this salsa güera, which is a really liquidy salsa, but it was spicy and good, and oh my goodness, like I could have just had that and a taco and horchata, and I swear I would have been good. They were really good, and I try to limit like pork intake and stuff like that, but they were good, gotta admit. One of the things that we did when we came in on that Friday, and then we returned to it on another day too, because I liked it, is the historic 4th Avenue. We walked around downtown. Everything was still closed because we were there kind of early, but we went to 4th Avenue, and there is tons of little funky and eclectic shops there. There's some restaurants and coffee places and metaphysical shops and thrift shops. So I did pick up one thing while we were there, but I will discuss that in the tools section of this video. Also, we got to take a look at the inside of San Javier del Bac mission, which we had been on the outside of it, but it was at the height of the pandemic, so we didn't get to go in. It is beautiful. It does make me sad when I go to these places and visit these places though, like the missions and stuff like that, because you know, it took away from my culture and my people, and you know, how we've evolved to who we are today is a part of that. So I do want to get to know it. I do want to get to understand it, but I do feel some sadness when I visit those places. But outside, there were several booths set up where the indigenous come out and they make the most amazing fry bread. There's few of them to choose from. So we got some sweet fry bread, and then we got one just with cheese and I don't know what else, but oh my goodness, it was really, really good. We did take a drive out to the city of Tubac, and that is like an art and gallery type place, but I don't know, I kind of really much prefer the funkiness of 4th Avenue. That's more my speed. So the highlight was visiting Sabino Canyon. Now, I read it, I kind of had it on a list of maybe things to do. We were taking off, we were going to Trader Joe's, and on the way to Trader Joe's, I saw the sign that said Sabino Canyon. So I told my husband, let's go. It's just 5 miles from where we're at. Come on, let's go. So we went, and by some sort of crazy luck, not luck, nothing is coincidental, right? But we were able to catch a tram ride, and we only had to wait, like everything just worked out. The timing was just perfection. But we were able to catch a tram that takes you about 3 miles up the canyon and then brings you the 3 miles back. If you take the tram early, you can stop. They have few stops along the way, and you can stop and get off and explore. We didn't have that kind of time because by the time we went onto the tram, it was 4 o'clock. But it worked out well because it was kind of a warm day. So this canyon is just absolutely beautiful. Like, it is a stunning canyon. And to think that people lived in that area is just amazing. Like, it's paradise. There's all these streams running. There's a lot of water in the canyon. People think about the desert as being dry. With this area, we really have 2 rainy seasons. We have the winter season, and then we have our monsoon season. So there is water. It is lush. Now, during the summer, it dries up, but it's beautiful. It really is. And Sabino Canyon had tons of streams running through it, just all over the place. There's a lot of water in that canyon. It is beautiful. I didn't get to see any creatures, which was kind of disappointing to me. I was hoping to catch something out there, but I didn't. But I did find out that there is a specific jellyfish that lives in the streams of Sabino Canyon, and it is a freshwater Sabino Canyon. It is a freshwater jellyfish, which I thought was amazing. Of course, I didn't get to see any of them, but it's cool to know that they exist and they're there. So now the main objective of our trip was really just to relax, and being in that little cabin gave us the opportunity. We were able to cook our meals, and the KOA actually had like a s'mores, not a s'mores, but they had, sorry, my kind of s'mores. They had wine and they lit the fires, the campfires or whatever at night, and it was really nice. And then we had our own little, what are they called? The little ring, the fire rings at our little cabin. So we were able to buy some wood and put up a fire and have some s'mores and drink our beer and relax on the hammock. I was able to do some reading, so it was really nice. It was a really good time. Okay, books. Books that I read were, this is the main book, which is The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. This is a really cool and interesting book, and if you sit down and think about the book afterwards, especially with what we do, you know, the people, my audience here has a certain, you know, we have a certain thing in common here. You know, it's all about what you set forth with your intentions, and you have to think and speak wisely with your intentions, because what you're doing, whatever you're doing, not only affects you, but it affects your children and your grandchildren. Everything follows suit. I do a lot of ancestral work, so this was really popping up to me when I was reading this book, is how we can affect the generations to come. And then somebody else has to come and fix our crap because we said something wrong, we did something wrong. So be really intentional. But I found a real likeness when I received the Crimson Asteria Tarot to this book and how it followed this woman from birth. It is a book about the Montoyas, but mostly about Orquídea Montoya. It follows her from birth to her transformation, aka death, her transformation, and what she said, her intentions, her words, her magic, and how it filtered down to her children and her grandchildren. And there's a lot of likelihoods, and I'm even wondering if the writer got her inspiration from Asteria, from this whole mythological type of story. Like seriously, there was so many things in common that I really do think that maybe that's where she got her inspiration for that book. So very interesting, especially when I started doing the research from the Crimson Asteria, how it related to that book. And I was like, hey, wait a minute, that all kind of goes together. So if you're curious about that, go ahead and check out my walkthrough on the Crimson Asteria Tarot. Now, my second book that I read was Witchery, Embrace the Witch Within by Juliet Diaz. This is a cool little pocket-sized book. And, you know, in looking at some of the reviews of this book, I had noticed, I've had this book for a bit now, and I just hadn't read it, but I had noticed that people kept saying it's a beginner's book. It's a beginner's book, like putting it down because it's a beginner's book. You know what? I have problems when people say things like that about books. There's also another book that I read that I just thought, wait a minute, guys, you know, like you're getting it all twisted. We are not masters of anything. And as much as you think you might know, there's always something else to learn. The minute you stop learning is the minute that you say that you've mastered something. This little book is chock full of information, and it's all put together so nicely. She's very careful with her words. She doesn't use the $10 words. She's down to earth. And I like her. I like her a lot. I like her work. I like her work. And I like this book and all the little rituals and spells that she has in here. It's a neat little book, and you can pick it up for, I think, for like $10 or something like that on Amazon. It's a deal. So this book, I did not read it, but I did get it. It's Baba Yaga, Slavic Earth Goddess. And I bought this book specifically to do some background research before I started working with Baba Yaga's soup, which is the animal woman, not animal woman. Oh my gosh, it's gone. Anyhow, I will put a little thing right here. But I haven't read it yet because I haven't started working with the deck. It's just been a kind of a busy month for me. So there we are. Those are the 3 books that were in my life this month. Okay, journals, crystals, and tools. All right, no journaling. I bought no journaling materials, pins, nothing. I bought nothing. But I have to say that my journaling for this month, there was a shift in my journaling this month. Like last month I had stated that I stopped putting pictures. I just wasn't printing the pictures and putting them in. This is as decorated as my journal got this month. That was the highlight of the decor within my journal this month. But what I discovered as a result of that is that I just really focused on the journaling, not the prettiness of it, just the journaling. So it's been a slow transition. You know, first it was all about like, let me doodle, let me make it look pretty, let me write big, nice words and stuff like that. I think I did that maybe in a couple of little places, like there was a little bit more in there, but for the most part, it was super simple and super easy. And I really found that I journaled more. I really did write down more. And then I even started drawing my little Mayan astrology icons for the day, for the energy of the day. I started even drawing those as a practice to get more familiar with the icon, with the look of it, because how else can you get used to it, right? But to do it. So that's the deal with my journaling. And as a matter of fact, even my Frida journal, because maybe I was more limited on time and that resource of it, even my Frida journal, I even took a step back from that. I didn't add anything to it. I didn't write in it. I just kept it to this one journal, and I kind of liked it. I will revert back to my Frida journals to finish that off because I love that deck so much. Oh, I gotta keep this here because there's more that we have to talk about there. But I found it interesting. During this time, I'm doing this 10 decks only for Lent, and it's all about kind of retracting, taking a step back and looking at things. And this really fell into place with that. So it was kind of cool. I liked it. Deck purchases. I did purchase a few decks this month, one being the Crimson Astaria Tarot. I like this deck. I like this deck a lot. I did a full review on it. I mentioned it just a few minutes ago. Awesome deck. Now, I had an absence, I would say, in my Oracle collection, I think. I think it was an absence. I'm using that excuse. And I went ahead and I bought the Vessel Oracle. This has been around for a long time. I've looked at it for a long time. I finally added it, and it goes with a lot of my decks. So it's really pretty cool. And then there's one more purchase, which is the Serpent Fire Tarot. Now, of course, I'm gonna purchase the Serpent Fire Tarot because Frida is the Queen of Cups. Now, how could I not get it? I had looked for it for such a long time on Facebook groups, trying to find a used copy of it. I could never be fast enough to get the deck. So I went ahead and ordered it, being that this is the 7th edition and the final printing of this deck. I went ahead and ordered it, but the deck is hanging out in some port in Oakland at this time, as there is a port workers strike. So I don't know when I'm gonna get the deck, but it's there. When it gets here, it gets here. Okay, let's discuss the decks that I used this month. Okay, so starting off the month in March, I had no idea that I was going to be doing this 10 decks only for Lent. So the decks that I'm going to describe under the 10 decks for Lent and the first couple of days of the month, those decks are not included because I hadn't started yet. It was the 2nd of March. That's when Lent started. So the beginning of the month, and I didn't bring these decks down, but maybe I'll put a picture up. My month ahead spread was with the Weaver's Oracle and the Brady Tarot, which are both very earthy and grounding decks, and I got a fantastic reading out of those. And then on the first day of the month, I used my Superlunaris. And then for the rest of the week, because it was Women's History Month, and at that point I had decided, okay, I'm gonna do this only 10 decks for Lent challenge. So I went ahead and went with the Our Tarot, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, but it is a deck filled with just these inspiring women that really made a change and an impact on all of our lives, whether we recognize it or not. It is a great deck. I really like the deck, but you do have to have some time to invest because the stories included in that are just, they're very detailed. Week 2, I got in this awesome deck, which is the Lilifer Tarot. I don't know if I'm putting it in right. The Lilifer Tarot, I have a full walkthrough of this deck, and I am just loving this deck so much. And as I stated in my review, I love that it has layers. I think that is so important. For me, it is so important to have the first layer, which is just pulling the card and then reading the card. Or you can use all these different elements. Okay, I had to go off camera and open the box because it just wouldn't open. I don't know what happened. But the Lilifer Tarot is bright and it's just an amazing deck. Like I said, I have a full walkthrough There's so many layers to this deck. We had the Mexica or Aztec New Year. So for that particular date, I went ahead and worked with the Tarot Yohali Iteca. I've mentioned this deck many times and it is on my classics video. The Jade Oracle also is another deck that I used for that particular reading. Especially this one here because it is the year of the rabbit. Week 3, I used the lovely, of course, Tarot Avataria. I love this deck. No, everybody knows how much I love this deck. I love everything about this deck. And so week 3, I worked with the Tarot Avataria. Now, because I am limiting my decks, I also had to limit the oracle decks that I worked with. So for the most part, my accompanying oracle deck had been and has been the Threads of Fate Oracle. This is a beautiful, and I refer to it as a shamanic deck. I believe that it is a very shamanic deck. And look at it. I think this is like my gateway drug type deck into the shimmery and shiny things. This should have been an indication that it was coming and I just didn't realize it. I like this deck and it goes with a lot of different decks. So it worked out very well for me combining those in. Now, during this week is when we went to Tucson and we had the full moon and spring equinox. And I was really trying to cut down on what I took with me. And of course, I always have hopes of finding a deck that I want. And I didn't find anything that I wanted. But I did take this one because it felt like spring to me. And I had it and I hadn't used it yet because I was waiting for spring to arrive. So this is the Tarot de Luz. And this cute little deck, I am really enjoying this cute little deck. The cards are tiny. The images are just, I don't know if I think I'm getting too much glare from that light that I'm bringing in here. But these little cards are so cute. The images are really good. I really like it. I'm enjoying this little deck. And I found that I've been placing it on my bedside and using it in that manner as well. So that was my main deck, and then I used that alongside the Vessel Oracle. If you're unfamiliar with the Vessel Oracle, I've yet to do a walkthrough on it, but very, very basic art and then very simple messages, but it matches a lot of the decks that I have, so it was very useful. Week 4. Week 4 was all about the Crimson Astaria Tarot and the Lillifer Tarot. That's all I used in week 4, and I used them along with the Vessel Oracle. That's it. Those were my decks. I don't know if you counted or not. Oh, also, there was a moon in there, so I used the Dark Goddess with the Threads of Fate. So that's 8 decks. I have only used 8 out of the 10 decks. And I was kind of holding off and waiting on purpose because there have been times when I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this challenge. So I'm going to lightly touch upon this whole challenge of the only 10 decks. And I'll get into I'll break it down at the end of it. But there was times when I was like, I don't think I can do this. I think I really need this other deck. And I needed to give myself some room because I knew that I had still another deck or 2 coming. So I've been trying to be very strategic about the decks that I'm working with during this time. And I've even resulted to putting every deck that I'm allowed to use during this time into this basket. I'm not even going up to my desk to journal or to pull cards. I'm really trying to just do the work that I need to do at the desk and then step away from the desk because I got to stay on track with these. It's not for anybody else. I'm just being accountable to me. So I have 2 more decks left until April 14th when Lent is over. And I just got a new deck in. It just came in today, so I'll be doing a walkthrough on that and incorporating that into the rest of my couple of weeks here. So that means I only actually have one more deck to add in. So let's see what it turns out to be. I'm not quite sure yet. I don't even know yet. Okay, so briefly, I just want to get into a brief conversation. Now, I'm not one for all the award shows or I don't watch a lot of TV. I really don't. Like at this time, my family and I are watching Ugly Betty. Like seriously, that's how far behind we are when it comes to TV and series. There is another show that I'm watching that is current, which is Promised Land, which is so good. I really like that. It's about a Mexican family and they have a vineyard and anyways. But just a few days ago, there was an instance where somebody was assaulted on stage, and I'm not going for anybody. This is really not what this whole conversation is about. What my conversation is about right now is the idea that you can work your whole damn life. So whatever capacity it is, within your family life, within your career, whatever it is, and be displaced by one comment. Now I want you to think about this, taking outside of all the context of what happened there. I want you to think about this from, if you're a YouTube creator, from that standpoint, and if you have a family, you know, we all are around family and sometimes they say the damnedest things, right? And you kind of look at them and wonder, what was that about? Now, I don't like confrontation, but I don't shy away from confrontation. But I try to do it as gracefully as possible. And sometimes they don't even understand what I'm saying to them when I say it, or when I respond rather. But I want you to keep in mind, these instances can change not only your day, but really affect so many other things, maybe even your life. You know, I was talking about the inheritance of Orquídea Divina, and how her commitment or her intention really changed the course of her life, her children, and her grandchildren. More people get affected by some of the things that we say, some of the things that we do, than we even realize. So when things like this happen in your life, and they do happen, take a moment, pause. Don't just react. I'm not saying that there hasn't been times in my life when reaction was first and thinking came second, but I'm saying take a moment, pause, and think about how you respond before you respond. It can really change the outcome, not of just that moment, but of all the moments to come in the future. It is imperative that you just slow down a little bit. And it really does kind of come back to this 10 decks for Lent. Now, this time is all about pulling back, retrieving, and then looking at it and rebirthing something in a whole new light. That's what this whole Lent thing is for me. It's just taking a few steps back. I've done it with my journal. I've done it with the decks. And it is a time for pause. It really is a time for pause and reflection. You don't have to be Catholic or anything else in order to have this time to do this. But in moments like this that are going to come up, I encourage you to just take a moment, to just breathe. Don't be reactive. Calm down. Do your full breath cycle. In my classes, I always talk about a full breath cycle. Inhale, pause. Exhale, pause. Just doing that, just taking that full breath cycle and thinking about it, each word, saying it in that tone, gives you the moment to collect yourself and respond out of character and out of respect for yourself as well. You know, somebody's going to disrespect you along the way. just be careful with the way that you respond. Respect yourself enough to value what you've built, value what you've become and what you are becoming. Think about your children, think about your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, your friends, whatever it is that surrounds you. Think about the bigger picture. That's it. That's all I wanted to say, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the community that we're developing here. Like I said last month, I really do appreciate it. So from my heart to yours, I wish you a day filled with love, joy, and happiness, and I will see you later.